Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war. With the cross of Jesus, rolling on the mighty army moves the Church of God. Christians, we are traveling where the saints have trod. We are not divided, all one mighty ring. One in hope and doctrine, one in charity. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war. With the cross of Jesus, floating on the shore. Thousand colors, kingdoms rise and wane. Let the Church of Jesus constant will be made. Gates of hell can never against that Church prevail. We have Christ on bondage that can never fail. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war. With the cross of Jesus, going on the cross. Onward, bending people, join our happy call. Lifting our great voices in the triumph song, praising God and honor unto Christ the King. His true countless legends, men and angels sing. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war. With the cross of Jesus, watching from the earth.
Shall we pray?
Amen.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for everything that we've been able to learn till now. We thank you for how everyone's been able to band together on social media, on messaging everywhere we can, Lord. This whole movement is being drawn closer and closer together in unity, and we thank you for this. We thank you for the ability that technology has afforded us to be able to speak with our brethren all over the globe. Lord, please help us all to be united and to work with each other and have the right character in our heart and the right spirit in our midst so that we can do the work the way you would have us do it. Continue to help us to solidify these messages in our mind, because we see now how important it was for us to do everything we could to understand these lines. Lord, evidence is all around us of what it means to make shipwreck of faith and to not be diligent or do your due diligence. We thank you, Lord, for helping us get this far, and we ask that you help us to find whatever means, whatever necessary, learn whatever truth we need to so that we're prepared for the test coming up ahead. We thank you, and we ask that your presence be here with us, and we pray all these things in the Lord Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. I don't know if you want to leave that there. That's probably good, right? You guys can hear us okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. Let me open up the share screen here. Open it first, then slideshow, right?
It's okay. It's top heavy.
Okay, everybody's got it? So we're going to go through, oh shoot, this is the wrong one. Hang on one second. Hopefully, how do I get out of here?
Escape.
Thank you. I almost did power off again.
Nobody trip over this, okay? When good happens.
Give me just 1 second. Somehow I clicked on the wrong one. Oh, that says it too. That shouldn't say that. Unless I just didn't change the beginning of it, that's possible.
Yeah, you should probably, I think you didn't change the beginning of it.
Okay, let's try that again. I'll go in and see. Because I thought I remembered doing
It's
it.
supposed to say Heraclea?
We got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the right one. Yeah.
Okay, great.
It just
But
had,
our failure and success part 2?
no, I just didn't title the page, the main page. I thought I did, but so it is the correct one. So hang on 1 second. We're almost there.
Okay.
And but yes, it is Heraclea.
Okay, then I have the wrong one. Do I?
Just that main page was wrong.
Today's the 7th.
Okay. Okay.
Today is the 7th, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna have to bypass this first page because it's the wrong title. Okay, so like we were talking, and we're gonna see this in the study, that God is merciful with us to have given us, it'll be a year this month, right? That this message first came out, right? The end of September, and October 3rd in there, right? So the messages continue to develop and to grow. And I am really thankful that the Lord laid on our hearts I know He timed everything. He timed our baptism. He timed our exit from Sac Central. He timed everything. And He put this structure, not building structure, but this structure in place because it gave us the time to do our own little school here and go through systematically. While during the week, we all listened to as many other presentations as we can. He put in place Bible studies during the week, and He put us fixed and focused on going through the Midnight Cry message very systematically. And I am very thankful for that. And I pray that everybody is handling these truths themselves in their own studies. And anybody that's with us that doesn't join us online during the week, you're welcome to, because we encourage others to take a presentation and take the notes to it and do whatever skills they have in creating board work and teaching all of us, that we all get to where we're practicing, understanding the message better, practicing presenting, and gaining experience as teachers, as we're all called to be teachers. So, but the importance of understanding this is our test being Raphia, or Asculum, is to understand what Raphia looks like. And the way to understand what Raphia looks like is by the previous battles, and that's what we're going to see. So again, in this slideshow, there's links that are added in various places. So when you have the file, you can click on those links or copy and paste them into your browser and check them out for more information. So the Russia investigation on President Trump began on May 17th, 2017, and it ended Friday, March 22nd, 2019. And this particular class, when they did it in Brazil, it sounded like the following Monday. So it was right after Friday had happened. So there's an article there, a couple of articles that can be read. After a 22-month investigation, charges against 37 defendants, 7 guilty pleas, and 1 conviction at trial, the Justice Department announced Friday that the Special Counsel's Office has wrapped up its probe into Russian election interference, possible Trump campaign collusion with Moscow, and obstruction of justice. So the whole article is there for that one. Also on March 22nd, 2019, so these two things happened. The investigation came to its close, and then this next thing also happened that same Friday. On March 22nd, 2019, the last town holding the Islamic State was defeated. It was proclaimed that the caliphate began in 2014 and is now over. The Trump White House had declared the Islamic State no longer holds any territory inside Syria, but the claim was disputed by Kurdish-led forces on the ground, who said clashes were continuing. Sarah Sanders, the White House press secretary, told reporters that the acting defense secretary, Patrick Shanahan, had briefed Donald Trump and that the Pentagon had confirmed that the last vestiges of the ISIS caliphate had been eliminated. As we go through today's study, one of the things we want to see is that these waymarks that we look forward to are not so much battles, but invasions. An invasion can be a more insignificant item of war. We have Germany crossing the line into the Soviet Union, but then you have the siege of Stalingrad. That occurred in the middle of that process in the war. We have to be vigilant before November 9. We should be watching for fulfillment now in tracing what leads up to November 9. That we're living in a fascinating time. And just a reminder of something Sister Tess said, I think it was in the previous class, but we've been talking about it for a while. There's 3 parts to the Midnight Cry message. The date, what we expect to happen on that date, and to also get rid of all our Protestant thinking, any preconceived ideas. And what's really important is that we know what to expect. And we're to know what to expect by looking at and understanding the previous battles, meaning Ipsus and, going back to 2014 as well, but Ipsus and Heraclea, which both have already passed. In looking at our battles, we've already looked into Ipsus, and we're now going to begin to look at Heraclea, the point where the relationship between the King of the North and the King of the South has gone bad. We discussed the 3 elements of Hitler's alliance with Stalin: non-aggression, spheres of influence, and the division of Eastern Europe. And then third was payment to the King of the South, payment for help from the King of the South. We traced Pyrrhus in Macedonia. We had Ipsus and then his invasion of Thessaly, where they fought over Macedonia. Next, we come to his history in Italy. There is no first battle where there is an alliance, but then there is the battle of Heraclea with Rome. Then we combine the lines, but like Pyrrhus gives us, the battles are going to look the same. So when you have Pyrrhus in Macedonia, you have an alliance at Ipsus. We don't see that alliance here. There are other things that were happening, but we don't see the alliance in Pyrrhus in Italy. We do see, and that's why we go to why she was led to World War II, because we see a different perspective of things, but there is an alliance in World War II. And I think we're all pretty familiar with that, but we'll keep going forward. But what won the war in Ipsus and Heraclea was elephants. And what do we know elephants to be?
For our time? For our time. Yeah, war of information.
Yeah, it's a mode of warfare. It's information warfare. It's a mode of warfare. And so if you have the Iron Age, then in the Iron Age, that's the battles you're going to see, right? The Brass Age, that's the battles you're going to see. The Stone Age, you're going to see them using stones. In the Information Age, you're going to see them using information. And that is World War III. We come to the history of World War II. We have the invasion of Poland, beginning of the war on the Western Front. They're in an alliance that begins to go bad because of payment and spheres of influence. Because remember, the pact was over dividing up the territory as well. So you have the invasion of Poland here, and the relationship starts to go bad because of payment and spheres of influence. That relationship is broken in August 1940. What we're suggesting is that these 2 battles, Ipsus and Heraclea, have already occurred. If we know what the first 2 battles look like, then we have 2 witnesses and Raphia is established. Then we can say, we know what Raphia looks like? And equally important, what it doesn't look like. Based on our 2 witnesses, the 2 witnesses are Ipsus and Heraclea. 1, the connection of the elephants. 2, the fact that we've been tracing our history since 1945. 3, connecting the thread. We have 3 evidences to show what this battle looks like. So we've got the elephants in Ipsus and Heraclea. You've got an alliance here. You've got no alliance here. and tracing this history here to show us as well what is happening. So these stories are all telling us what is happening on our line in our actual history. And based on these, I know I need help with it, but and I know with prayer and the Holy Spirit will help us. Is when we know these specific events, that's what's going to show us as we're keeping up with current events from the right stream, keeping up with current events. We will know by watching the actions and behavior of the King of the North and the King of the South and their spheres of influence. In reading about August 19th, 1940, the Soviet Union suspended its deliveries because they were disagreeing with Germany over policy in the Balkans. The Soviet Union had gone to war with Finland. Germany had fallen behind with its deliveries under the pact, and there were issues over drawing the borders between Hungary and Romania. They met together in secret, redrew those borders, and settled their differences. When that alliance was repaired at the end of August, the Soviet Union began sending much more aid into Germany than it had before. We can trace the issue with these two begin to happen in this history, and I've marked it so we would know where we're talking about here. But we can see that in this history, we can start tracing the things that were happening. We understand that they were in an alliance here in Poland. They were in an alliance. In this history, it's the King of the South that initiates the conflict against the King of the North. It's the King of the North that wins it. But we have to remember, this is a history of failure. Looking at the line of World War II, it is a history of failure. When we come to understanding Heraclea in our time, and I didn't mark it Heraclea, but I think we all know it's 2018, so we're looking at here. When we come to understanding Heraclea in our time, they have been in an alliance, Trump and Putin were in an alliance, which is what the Russia investigation was all about. We can expect to see that relationship go bad. The issues are sanctions and spheres of influence. Towards the end of 2018, we should see that conflict heightened and then repaired. Then their alliance becomes stronger than it was before. Everybody follow that so far? Yeah. You know,
can I ask a question?
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. I have a dumb, it might be a dumb question. Maybe it's a question I already should know the answer to. But we know this is World War III. It's the information war. Does the rest of the world, the external, also know that this is World War III, information war? Or are they expecting hot wars?
Yes, yeah, they do. From what I've seen in the news, I know that some are aware and know.
It's going to involve the whole world, and we know that the Nethinims are being plowed now. And it's external events that are plowing them.
But are they acknowledging this as World War III, this information war?
I don't know if you want to, I don't know if they've labeled, I don't know if I've heard it labeled that.
They do it in kind of a sarcastic, joking manner, but with a little bit of seriousness behind it, kind of a way, you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
Oh man, this is World War III, look at all the crazy stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
So deep down they know, they just can't officially decide.
Because maybe they still have the same problem as we have had, is understanding it's not a hot war.
Okay.
Also, like I've heard and like I've seen the what do you call it, the headlines, and they'll say information warfare. Like they know those terms. They'll call what Russia and Trump, what Russia and America is going through with information and all of that. They understand that it is information warfare, and they see all different kind of warfares going on. And I do see it in the stream of news I watch. It is in the headlines. So I'll put that out there. But as far as it being labeled as World War III, I haven't heard any of that connection. But as far as seeing or witnessing the information warfare that's going on, they do recognize that.
You know, actually, maybe it's not even sarcastically said now that I think about it, because I can't remember if it was last week's study or this one. But was it last week we went through the things that the Pope said or is that, maybe it's this one, I can't remember, but because the Pope is making speeches that is saying that the actions that some of the leaders are taking today are repeating the history of Hitler. And what was the history of Hitler? World War, right?
Yeah.
So they are.
Okay.
He's confirming that.
Now that I think about that. So in our previous study, we studied the Internet Research Agency, or the IRA, and the role that they played in the 2016 election. We looked at how Vladimir Putin had set up this agency in 2013, really as a type of an information weapon. Its role is to send out disinformation and play with public perception. They began that work in 2014, particularly working with the issue in Ukraine. They are supported by Concord Management Consulting. We went through that, I believe, last week. We know Concord, and this all ties into Concord in 2016. Did I say that right? Yeah, 2016. Yeah.
2016. Oh, yeah.
This business was set up by Putin to fund the IRA and is currently under sanctions for the role it played in the 2016 election. And if I remember right, it's the chef, Putin chef. Maybe somebody knows the name, but I think it was, because I know one of these companies that got sanctions, and I'm pretty sure it was this one, the consulting management, Concord Management Consulting, was the chef of Putin, he's an oligarch. This business was set up by Putin to fund the IRA and is currently under sanctions for the role it played in the 2016 election. Another thing they do is set up alternative news sites. We see online, or people share with us, all these different sites that are coming up that claim to have alternative news that they say mainstream news won't share with you. Not all of these have been set up by Russia, but many have. People don't realize that these Western alternative news sites often take their information from the Russian ones. And the Russian alternative news sites are set up to look like the Western news sites, or Ukrainian, or whatever country they're trying to work in. So they're like chameleons. That be safe to say?
Yeah.
They blend?
Yeah.
People are still promoting these sites. For example, one of these sites proposed a story on Clinton. Obviously, Western alternative news sites propagate that story and share it. We could see that happen through 2016. Tell me where news sites like InfoWars, I think I got a typo in there, took us where news sites like InfoWars took their information from Russian sources without realizing it and then mixed it in their own conspiracy theories. There is in this working together of East and West, even if it's not intentional. So Russia puts out the fake news, but you don't know it's from Russia. Mainstream media here picks it up as if it's news and reports it. So in a sense, they're working together, the East and the West. There are those in this movement that still follow those websites and think that we need to be doomsday prepping because there's going to be a blackout. Many people are being led astray by following these alternative news sites. They completely warp our perception of what has happened and what is coming. That is what they were designed to do in the first place. So you can see that even in the movement, those that follow this stream of information are not going to understand that this is not a hot war and what this war is all about. We began to look at what the Internet Research Agency did in 2016 and whether or not Trump was aware of that activity. I have to tell you, after going through the study myself more thoroughly, he is full aware of what he's doing from many years ago, very calculated. And she says that she's saying he is. This is from Tessa studies that he is. Then what we'd expect him to do is begin to strengthen the United States in a way that Putin could not do that again. He must be aware that if Putin can give him power, can help him get into power, which we suggest he couldn't have become president without Putin, then he also knows the power that Putin would have to remove him, right? And when I started reading some of this and going through it, it's like, well, that explains some of the things we're going to see that he did in Heraclea. Because when he went to Helsinki and looked like he's friends and then turns around and does something completely unfriendly, he knows that Putin can do the same thing in reverse. This next page was just thrown in there. We're not going to go through it by no means. It was there with a lot of links. It was just off a Wikipedia page, just tracking the investigation into Trump. And it shows the different events and stuff, and each one is linked. You can click on those or go to. I put the main link down here just in case these individual links, for whatever the reason, don't work. The main link is down here, and you can click on that or copy and paste it. It's not in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not in there.
Oh.
Just in the presentation?
Yeah. Some of the stuff I don't get in the notes that I put in the slideshow. But you get both in email, so. When we come to 2017, the number of bills and resolutions in the U.S. government is more than double than that of 2016. What Trump is pushing through is trying to strengthen cybersecurity within the United States, which is another point that was really interesting that I've heard her make several times, is that if Trump is denying collusion in anything with, that Putin had anything to do with the 2016 election, then why does he feel this need to strengthen cybersecurity to prevent from such occurrence? It amazes me how dumb we are. When somebody gets up and speaks, how powerful it is, actually. When somebody gets up and speaks and can just lie and lie and lie, and his people don't care. In May 11th, 2017, Donald Trump signs Executive Order 13800, and he's beginning a process of strengthening the cybersecurity networks. Those were the beginning stages. And I'm going to be listing these dates. We'll add to it as we go through. Now we come to July 2018. The relationship is still strong. This is 18 months after the 2016 election, more than 18 months, and the relationship is not weakened. Trump and Putin meet in Helsinki. Prior to the meeting, Trump engaged in some very suspicious behavior. He attacked and criticized all of the United States allies. I think most of us, I think, remember that. He's particularly attacking NATO, which was set up at the end of World War II, led by the United States to restrain the Soviet Union. It's an alliance that was formed specifically to hold back the King of the South. When he attacks NATO and says we don't need it anymore, those are words that are very friendly to Putin. And keep in mind, this is 2018, so Putin has already helped him get elected with the role that he played. And now he's talking about getting rid of NATO, and Putin really likes that. Let's see here. When he attacks NATO and says we don't need it anymore, those are words that friendly to Putin, because the presence of NATO in Eastern Europe is one of the thorns in the side of Vladimir Putin. He also fought with his other allies, with Canada and the European Union. He attacks everyone until he comes to Russia, and then he has only praise. In Helsinki, he meets with Putin. And I remember when this happened, because my dad is always been a Republican, and I remember he did not like Trump in the beginning. But when Trump got elected, he was right on board and thinks that this guy is the best thing that's ever happened, and he doesn't care about the things he says that are so awful to say, which just astounds me as a daughter with the behavior. I mean, I wasn't raised a Christian, but I mean, I'm thinking, you're my dad, and you're condoning the way this guy's behaved?
Yeah, it's hypocrisy.
Yeah. So there are a couple links here again as well to read on things, and I think I put the video. Yeah, the video link is there for Helsinki. When they came out of the meeting, we read from John McCain, a Republican senator who has since passed away. He's fought with Trump way back in the 2016 election. He was a prisoner in the Vietnam War, quite a war hero. He was offered to be exchanged in a prisoner swap, and he said, no, there's prisoners weaker than I am. Send them, and I will stay here. In that time, he was tortured. Trump's response to all that is heroes don't get captured in the first place. I thought that was the coldest thing a person could have ever. It just amazed me that he said that, and I remember hearing it. So the relationship did not go very well, but he's of the same political party, and his words about the meeting in Helsinki was that it was a terrible mistake. John McCain says Helsinki was a terrible mistake. He says we've never had a president that would submit himself before a dictator in that way. After attacking all of his allies, Trump was not able or willing to be strong in front of Putin. There's two things we need to research in that meeting. Someone asked around the same day or time of the meeting, the intelligence agencies released a report that confirmed that Russia had interfered with the election. If everybody remembers that, right before Helsinki, right there at that same time, that they had confirmed that Russia had interfered with the election. So you know Trump has to know. He's there at Helsinki and he has to know. A reporter stands up and asks Trump, you've heard two different opinions. You've heard Putin's and your own intelligence agency. Which one do you choose to believe? And Trump said Putin's. I think we all remember that too. That Putin's words were very strong. They denied it. He also announced that Putin had made him a generous offer. He called it generous that Vladimir Putin would allow Robert Mueller in the Russia investigation to interview the Russians suspected in interfering with the election as long as Donald Trump gave Putin access to one man, Bill Browder. We've already looked at Bill Browder, not by name, but we actually did as well, I think, in other studies. We talked about him in a previous study. We talked about the meeting in Trump Tower. What did we say the meeting in Trump Tower was about? Who remembers that? The meeting in Trump Tower.
About adopting babies.
Yeah, about adopting babies. Let's see. The head of Trump's campaign team and his son-in-law discussing adopting Russian babies before Trump was ever even elected. Why were the Americans not allowed to adopt Russian children?
Because of the sanctions.
Yep, because of the Magnitsky Act, the sanctions. The United States had passed the Magnitsky Act the same month. Not in 2016, but the same month that Putin banned the adoptions. Who invented the Magnitsky Act? And that was, or the Magnitsky Act. That was Bill Browder. Yep. Sergei, is that how you say the name? Sergei Magnitsky was a lawyer for Bill Browder. Vladimir Putin and Magnitsky had Magnitsky killed, and now Bill Browder travels the world lobbying foreign governments to institute Magnitsky Acts. They are a type of sanction on the Russian government. Whether it's the Trump Tower meeting or Helsinki, these are the things that are on Vladimir Putin's mind, sanctions. It's the only thing we know of in that meeting that he asked Trump for, access to Bill Browder. And Trump thought that was generous, and that was July 2018. And then I just put a quote up here, and you got John McCain's statement on time.com. Arizona Senator John McCain condemned Donald Trump. I got to move something. Hang on one second. Condemned Donald Trump's remarks at the joint press conference with Russian Vladimir Putin in Helsinki on Monday, calling it one of the most disgraceful performances by an American president in memory. The damage inflicted by President Trump's naivety, egotism, false equivalence, and sympathy for autocrats is difficult to calculate. But it is clear that the summit in Helsinki was a tragic mistake. McCain said in a statement, President Trump proved not only unable, but unwilling to stand up to Putin. He and Putin seemed to be speaking from the same script, as the president made a conscious choice to defend a tyrant against the fair questions of a free press, and to grant Putin an uncontested platform to spew propaganda and lies to the world. Remember when we were talking about 2018, we're talking about what waymark in this history? What is 2018?
Midnight Cry.
Midnight Cry. And that just goes back to what we were talking about last night, that if Exeter is the Midnight Cry, right, and that's 2018, Boston was 2014. And what did they do in midway between April 19th and October 22nd? What did they do? What did they say? Remember from Great Controversy? Midway between when they thought first thought he was going to come to when behold the bridegroom coming.
You couldn't think of the words.
Yeah.
I come with the bride. No, that's not right.
That was a camp meeting in a school in the United States that began towards the end of September, and we can mark it as a period of time. So the Midnight Cry is the swelling, right? It's swelling. It started in 2014, and then it swells into a loud cry, and it ends in a shut door. In the United States, on October 3rd, and in France, October 13th, the message of time. Around September, October, November, December, it's our internal waymark for the Midnight Cry. We need to note that in July 2018, there's no problem with their alliance. So externally, there's no problem with the alliance between Trump and Putin. September 21st, 2018, Trump unveils, and it was June? Was it June 2018 when they were in Italy? Or July? When Parmenter first preached that message on It's Time to Talk About Time. I don't remember what they titled it, but the subject of time came up, and then came the time prophecy in October. September 21st, 2018, Trump unveils a new cyber strategy. National cyber strategy. It's what this executive order was set up to do. So the executive order that he put in place, signed on it May 11th, was for the purpose of the national cyber strategy on September 21st. He's been working on it all this time. It's the first new cyber strategy since 2003. It's been 15 years since it's been updated. The foreword is a couple of pages written by Donald Trump, and he says a couple of very interesting things. He says they are taking action to address cyber threats. We want to note one sentence that would have rung into the ears of Vladimir Putin. He says the rise of the internet, the growth of cyberspace are all characteristics of the modern world, and they correspond with the rise of the United States as the world's only superpower. So if we're to draw that, what would it look like? It's an increase of knowledge. If we were to draw that, it looks like there's this point where two things, according to him, correspond. The first is the rise of the internet and this centrality of cyberspace. The second is the rise of the United States as the world's only superpower. So what date would we put here? When did the United States become the only superpower?
1989.
1989. When was the internet?
89.
Hey, 1989. So this is what he's saying in his cyber strategy, in the foreword to it. So if we were to draw that, what would it look like? Okay, let's see here. 1989, what Trump is saying is two corresponding things rose at the same time. One is the World Wide Web, what was known or written about in Time magazine as the Big Bang Theory, or the Big Bang, excuse me. Second of 1989 corresponding is with the United States being the world's only superpower. And I did take a clip here. You can click on the link as well. So just reviewing our dates, May 11th, he signs the executive order, and that order was put in place in the work that he'd been doing, coming to the point where he, on September 21st, 2018, that he would initiate this national cyber strategy. And in July, they're still in union. Their relationship is strong. And so the link is here. You can read the whole document, but I just highlighted the part that is in there. that he's strengthening the cybersecurity of federal networks and critical infrastructure, the work performed and reports created in the response, just to let you know that, anyways, you can click on that link and read what he says. Why is Trump saying it's the world's only superpower? The Soviet Union had fallen. In this history, we're saying there's two. You know, in the history prior to 1989, there's two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. From 1989 and forward, which is the increase of knowledge, which Donald Trump is recognizing, the United States becomes the world's only superpower, and that corresponds with the invention of the World Wide Web. He reminds the people that America invented it, which is true of the internet, but not of the World Wide Web. He also says that America has taken for granted their supremacy over the internet. He says that supremacy is being challenged, and he names 4 countries that are challenging the United States supremacy online. The first country he names is Russia, then China, Iran, and North Korea. He says that these 4 countries, beginning with Russia, all challenge the United States with recklessness they would never dare in any other domain. Now keep in mind, July, just months before, they were friends. He says they undermine our economy and democracy. He particularly marks the democratic process, which is the election. He says that the risk is growing, that these countries will use cyber attacks during a crisis that is not war, but still peacetime, which reminds us of that Russian general that said there is no division now between war and peace. So Donald Trump has released the national cyber strategy to protect against 4 main countries, beginning with Russia, and defend this dynamic. The United States, as the world's only superpower, which he thinks it still is, and the authority or control over the internet. This was the first cyber strategy update in 15 years. So I thought that was all really fascinating, the statements that he personally says dating back to 1989. He knew that this was the only superpower as of that time. He knew the web was coming out, the internet, right?
So, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you have a question?
No, I was just going to say, so we're supposed to be seeing what we're going to see, you know, the test, if we're going to, what we're going to see. And so we're going to see war, well, InfoWar. We're going to see false information that's probably going to scare us or something.
Dog chew toy.
Hmm?
We're just hearing background noise. I don't know who it's coming
Oh,
from.
I'm sorry. Let me
Chew toy.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is we're probably going to see InfoWar, but it will be, I mean, we're going to see something with false information that's probably going to devastate us because it will be like scary or something, right?
If we think about Ipsos, and help me make sure I get this straight, Adriana, how I'll straighten your head better than I do. The King of the South initiates Ipsos.
Okay.
Right? Because the King of the North instigates Heraclea, and the King of the South wins. Because we're going to see as we go through this study, the King of the South benefited from this. Okay? So what
Did the King of the South instigate Ipsos?
Is that what I said? Yeah, I think that's what I said. I'm asking.
I think it is King of the South. And then King of the South. No.
I need that
King
chart
of
in
the
front of me all the
North
time to remember
no,
it.
It is. I think it was King of the North, but the King of the South won, right? Won the battle.
Ipsos is from part of the 3. I don't remember now.
Yeah, we definitely got to keep it in review. I know I
But
do.
it was Antigonus and Demetrius against Seleucus and Cassander and Lysimachus.
Ipsos, yeah.
Yeah. So the 3 allies, they decided to go up against Antigonus.
Yeah, but I have to go put my head back in that study to who's the
Or was
king.
it Demetrius who instigated it, or Antigonus?
I guess we need to review that.
I got it. Here we go. So Ipsos, it goes.
Somebody else, you have it?
I've got your presentation. It's
awesome.
Brazil 33.
Brazil number 33, and Ipsos is the King of the South. Well, no, Ipsos is when they're in. We already said that. You know, So nobody instigates at King at Ipsus. Boy, do I need to have this all straight in my head. And so do you guys, but so do I. I'm going to be sharing it. We all do because we all need to be sharing it. So they're in alliance at Ipsus. But when you get to the invasion of Thessaly, that's the one I was referring to.
No. Who's in alliance at Ipsus? Ipsus is
the king of the south is Trump, or Trump is Demetrius, and Pyrrhus is.
Oh, you're talking about pirates.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what study is that one that Christine has?
Brazil 33.
Okay, thanks.
33. And so Demetrius and Pyrrhus works with Demetrius.
Yeah.
And that's the king of the north and the king of the south in alliance. And so then when you get to the invasion of Thessaly, which lines up with Heraclea, the king of the south attacks the king of the north, and the king of the north wins. Pyrrhus in Italy and Heraclea, the king of the north, attacks because one's a failure and one's a success. So in a line of success, it's the king of the north that attacks the king of the south in Heraclea. And that's what we saw, and the king of the south wins. That's what we're going to see as we go through this study, that the king of the north attacks the king of the south. And that's what this Heraclea is all about. Okay, so then in World War II, you have the same scenario as you had in Macedonia, where the king of the south attacks the king of the north, the king of the north wins. But in the line of success, our line, the king of the north, just like in Pyrrhus in Italy, you got the king of the north that attacks the king of the south, and the king of the south wins. Okay. So my bad. Ipsus is the alliance, and I knew that, but it's like so easy to get this all confused.
But okay, yeah, Ipsus is the alliance.
Right.
But there is a battle going on there at Ipsus.
Yes, but but at that time, the king of the north and the king of the south were in alliance.
Okay.
Antigonus and Demetrius, but Demetrius had Pyrrhus fighting as a general for Demetrius.
Right.
He wasn't fighting for Antigonus, he was fighting for Demetrius.
Yeah.
So you had the union of the king of the north and the king of the south. Okay, go ahead. I think you had a question.
No, I was just putting it together. You were gonna put it together with what's gonna go on with the Infowars and who.
Yeah.
So that's what you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm gonna figure out where I was at. Let's see. Your internet connection is unstable. While Trump is saying it, why is Trump saying he's the only superpower? The Soviet Union had fallen. In this history, we're saying there's two, the United States and the Soviet Union. From 1989 and forward, which is the increase of knowledge, which Donald Trump is recognizing, the United States becomes the world's only superpower, and it corresponds with the invention of the World Wide Web. He reminds the people that America invented it, which is true, but with the internet, but not of the World Wide Web. He says also that America has taken for granted the supremacy over the internet. He says that supremacy is being challenged, and he names 4 countries. Okay, we went through all that. I'm trying to. You guys interrupt me. I'll lose my place again. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Could you figure that? So, is he trying to plant seeds so people will be willing to go to war against these 4 people? These 4: Russia, China, Iran.
Oh, possibly.
Great.
It is showing who it is. I don't know, possibly. But he is suggesting that what's really interesting is those are the ones he's friends with. Well, is he friends with China? He's definitely friends with Korea, right?
He was, but he's turned against them.
Yeah,
In the beginning, he was friends with them.
He's amazing to watch. But I've kind of come out of this study realizing how calculated he really is. He knows exactly what he's doing. And it's too bad he didn't read the Bible.
Who, Trump? Are you guys talking about Trump knowing what he's doing?
Yeah.
He just acts stupid.
He just acts stupid. So let's see. He says that they undermine our economy and our democracy. He particularly marks the democratic process, which is the election. He says that the risk is growing that these countries will use cyber attacks during a crisis that is not war, but still peacetime, which reminds us of that Russian general that said there's no division now between war and peace. So Donald Trump has released the National Cyber Strategy to protect against 4 main countries, beginning with Russia, and defend this dynamic. The United States as the world's only superpower. Okay, so I guess we did pretty much finish that one. So over here on the little graph we have here, back in here, there were 2 superpowers, and here In 1989, you've got not the World Wide Web, but the Internet, the invention of the Internet.
ARPANET, wasn't it? Or
yeah, and so and he is acknowledging that the United States is the only superpower, and he's also acknowledging the Internet. So we know this from our studies, but we have the President of the United States that has also publicly acknowledged this. Next, we'll discuss John Bolton. What is his official role in the U.S. government? John Bolton said more about this cyber strategy than Donald Trump did. What he said the cyber strategy enabled them to do was to fight offensively instead of defensively. Now they weren't going to wait to be attacked. They were going to attack first in anticipation of an attack. Offensively instead of defensively. The minute you hear that at the end of September, we know some type of dynamic in their alliance is changing. Remember what is about to happen in early November? And this is 2018, right? We're 6 weeks away from midterm elections, so this is released just in time. So this national cyber strategy was put in place just prior to the election, to the midterm elections. John Bolton said, in a paraphrase, it's part of our way of deterring foreign countries. They're making it public now at the end of September that they should expect we're going to now attack offensively. So if you go back to how he's friends with Putin to get him elected, you got to be smart enough, because people, has that come out of the Art of War study? Knowing, why am I connecting that with the Art of War? But you can use your enemy for something that you want, but you know what your enemy is capable of. So when you get what you want, now you have to turn on your enemy, because you know your enemy can do the same thing in reverse. Like, I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so they're making it public, and now at the end of September, they should expect that we're going to see an attack offensively. So I just put in links as well to when he authorizes the offensive cyber operations to deter foreign advisors. So this is also coming from a man who denied that Russia was involved in the election. Right? It's like, how stupid can we be? Okay, so we're just following along our dates. May 11th, he signs Executive Order 13800. Then you have July, the Helsinki meeting, they're friends. And now you have September 21st, he's putting in place the National Cyber Strategy, which was part of Executive Order 13800. So he had been working on this for a long time. The 31st of October, and what he says is that the United States is right now undertaking offensive cyber operations to protect the election. So here we are, October 31st, 2018, and he's putting in offensive cyber operations to protect the election. Again, coming from a man who said that Russia did not interfere with the election. So they're already engaging offensively. And so think about how Putin is seeing all this, right? So Putin's watching all this. So they're already engaging offensively on the 31st of October. John Bolton ties that to the cyber strategy, which he says began with this executive order, the one on May 11th. John Bolton then met with Vladimir Putin in Moscow. This was a couple days before on the 28th of October. So we've got September 21st. You've got the National Cyber Strategy, October 28th. This is when what we're going to read right now, John Bolton, what he's going to say, and October 31st, taking offensive actions right now. So this is John Bolton. Let's see, Vladimir Putin has a few words for John Bolton. What Putin says is, in July, I met with Trump in Helsinki. It went really well. There were no problems, which is why I'm surprised to see the United States take these steps, which I would not call friendly, and seems to have come out of nowhere. Vladimir Putin is stating on the 28th of October that the United States is taking steps against him that are not friendly, and he's questioning why that is when the July meeting was such a success. We read October 31st that they are undertaking offensive action right now. So knowing that we need to know the first two battles and how the battles were won with elephants, right? Because of the elephants, they're won. And elephants are representing a mode of warfare. And the elephants represent the new mode of warfare for our time, and that is information warfare. So we know from the lines that the king of the north, you got that still in front of you, king of the north initiates Heraclea against the king of the south, that's okay, and the king of the south wins. And then we know that the king of in the Raphia, we know the king of the south attacks the king of the north, and the king of the south wins, right? So if it's information warfare, we should be seeing Putin do things offensively against the United States. Is that correct?
I find it interesting that it seems like the opposite of whoever instigated, the opposite wins. So the king of the south instigated, the north wins.
But Raphia, the king of the south instigates, and the king of the south wins.
I'm just talking about the ones that you have in this list.
Yeah, we don't have them yet. We didn't get to Raphia yet. Because when you get to Raphia, we know Raphia is the king of the south against the king of the north, and the king of the south wins. Okay, so it should help us to have these things in mind to know that if the king of the south, Raphia is the king of the south, aggressive against the king of the north, then there should be some things coming from Putin against us, correct? And based on Raphia being November 9, we should see things happening. And this is helping us to know what to look for, right? So November 9th, huh?
Those events in Heraclea are going to look like what Putin's events are going to look like going up against us.
Yeah.
So you have to know how those events are working. So you'll hear media statements by Putin criticizing Trump, maybe. You might, what else did he do?
Or expose some of the things that he's done. Is that correct?
Yeah, could be.
Secrets. The secrets, when the secrets are released, wasn't that at midnight?
Yeah, I think it's part of it. But it's a series of events.
Yeah, you're looking at these events here to think of what to look for, right? Okay.
It's all going to be through media, basically. That's why she's saying that it's important that we keep up with the news cycle, because it's all going to be posted on the media, and it's going to be a trail of events that you can follow. Basically, anytime you hear Putin say anything about America, anything, that's going to...
Listen.
Yeah.
And it's a good idea for New York Times and Washington Post to be subscribed to, because I guess those ones require it. It's from what I found out for my own self, because I just subscribed to both of them.
Yeah, and they'll give you nonstop, like, little notifications on your thing. You can look at the titles and just kind of see what's in there.
Yeah, I get them every morning.
Yeah, and then they give you your weekend briefing and your Thursday report and your email.
Yeah.
And like,
But you can look at the headlines.
Boss here.
But you can look at the headlines and see which ones and watch for things that are happening. Plus, also involving the spheres of influence. But it'll be the king of the south that attacks the king of the north.
And Putin's been quiet.
Actually, yeah,
Oh,
no,
wow.
it is going to be through spheres of influence. Remember, because that's what Raphia.
Well, that's part of this here as we go through here. That's
Yeah.
part of this here. Okay, so he says that he's been unfriendly. Trump is being unfriendly. So November 9 to 11 was a memorial in France of the end. This was it. Because I never really thought about these. You know, when you really lay these out on a line, you can see the stuff that, well, for me anyways, that totally oblivious to connecting all these dots. It was a memorial in France at the end of the First World War. World leaders, including Trump and Putin, were to be there to mark the end of World War I on its 100th anniversary. On the side of that memorial, Trump and Putin were to have a meeting. On the way to France, Trump canceled that meeting, which was strange. Not sure if it was this meeting or the one after. I think it might have been this one, and I think it comes up later that was the other one. Anyways, that he did it via Twitter. Let's see, that he might, officials found out via Twitter when Trump canceled that meeting. And it was the G20, I think I say it later, but it was actually the G20 one in Argentina that comes up later, that he did via Twitter. But so he canceled 2 meetings is what we're going to look at. So so October 31st, we're taking offensive actions. November 6th is the midterm elections. November 9 through 11, he cancels a meeting, okay? November 16th is CISA, Trump ties these acts, culmination of what he began in May. So he's tying all these acts from May all the way down together when he creates a new agency within the Department of Homeland Security, a new agency within the U.S. government specifically for cyber security. November 25th, there's a crisis in Ukraine. Some Ukrainian naval vessels had sailed into Russian waters without asking the permission of Russia, which wasn't that strange of an act because they sailed through those waters all the time, but they did usually, I lost my place, I have to mark my spot here, usually ask for permission. As far as we have found, this has never been denied. The time they do not, and this time they do not ask permission, and those Ukrainian vessels are attacked. They're captured by Russia, and all the crew members are taken prisoner. This was seen as a huge escalation toward an open war. Everyone was on edge, waiting to see if there would be war. Did Ukraine call martial law or just threaten to do it? They did call martial law. There's a Washington Post article that goes through the details of that you can check out as well. November 29 and the end of November, early December, there was to be a G20 in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And at that G20, Trump and Putin were to have a meeting. On November 29th, Donald Trump canceled this meeting 2 days before they were to meet, which was the 1st of December. The reason Trump said he was canceling the meeting is why? Why did he cancel the meeting? He canceled the meeting, he says, because of Ukraine, Russia's behavior over Ukraine. And keep in mind all the stuff that's going on, that they were friends in July, right? And then in September, he's puts in place the national cyber strategy. They're going to attack offensively. All the way from September 21st into October, the relationship is going bad. When we come to November, what are they fighting over? What were they fighting over in November?
Spheres of influence.
Spheres of influence. Trump says because of Russia's behavior toward Ukraine, I'm canceling my meeting with Putin in Argentina. I'd be willing to meet with him again when he resolves that situation. This is the first time where we can see Trump has stood up to Putin. That was November 29th. So Trump cancels another meeting. November 25th, just days before you have Ukraine against Russia. And I think it's in these notes. It goes into the Ukraine thing just a little bit more. Or else I was reading that in that article. I can't remember. But and maybe my Romanian friends can help me a little bit more with this. But there was Ukraine was wanting to side with NATO. But then they had a pro-Russian, pro-Putin leader. Correct? Was that the one that was Yanukovych? Yeah, Yanukovych, okay. And yeah, we do go through that more in here because it goes into Manafort. December 19, their relationship appears to be not going well. It is very much like Friday, March 22nd. That's where we began our study, looking at that Friday, March 22nd date, where a lot of things happened all in one day. Trump announced that troops are withdrawing from what countries? From Syria,
Afghanistan,
and Syria. What is peculiar about these two countries? Russia's involved in both of these countries, so it's again over spheres of influence. Russia is supporting Syria, and the United States is supporting the rebels. But in Afghanistan, it's the other way around. The United States is supporting the government, and Russia is supporting the rebels. Just with that dynamic, these are both proxy wars between Russia and the United States. Trump announces that ISIS has been defeated, therefore there's no need for him to be in Syria. I do not believe that he's unaware of why they're in Syria in the first place. He knows that this is a proxy war, and we discussed Syria in an earlier class. Its strategic location, they didn't enter Syria because of ISIS. This was a response against Assad and Russia. In response to this, Jim Mattis, one of the generals advising Donald Trump, resigned. He's the last general standing that had not already quit or been fired. They would call him the last one standing or the last one restraining on Donald Trump. For nearly the first 2 years of his presidency, he had some strong, well-known generals advising him, influencing and restraining him. One by one, they become either frustrated and quit or he fires them. Jim Mattis was the last one remaining of those generals. When Trump announces he's withdrawing troops, Jim Mattis has been trying to prevent him from doing this for a long time. He's frustrated and he resigns. I don't have the chat open, and Adriana wants to. Oh, are you monitoring the chat just in case anybody has questions? Just curious. You don't have to. I can't do it while I do this. I just saw it pop up a lot, so I don't know if somebody has questions.
Happy Sabbath. Let's go.
Okay. So when Trump announces he's withdrawing troops, Jim Mattis has been trying to prevent him from doing this for a long time. He's frustrated and he resigns. He was meant to finish out his term, if everybody remembers that. He was going to finish, which is still a couple of months, but Trump responded to his resignation by firing him. Trump also removed sanctions on Oleg Deripaska. There are a couple of Russian oligarchs closest to Vladimir Putin that also work with him, but not in a way that makes it easy to tie their behavior to the Russian government. So May 11th, you've got the executive order that he puts in place. July 21st, the Helsinki meeting, they're friends. September 21st, the National Cyber Strategy, and they're going to begin to act offensively, the United States is, against these cyber attacks, putting things in place just prior to the election. And the National Cyber Strategy was the work that came out of what he was putting in place when he signed the executive order the year before. So in October 28th, Putin tells John Bolton that Trump is not acting friendly to us, not sure why. October 31st, he's taken offensive action right now. November 6th is the elections, so this offensive action was taking place purposely right prior to the elections. And then November 9 to 11, he has a meeting at the World War I Memorial, right, the anniversary of World War I, that he's supposed to meet with Putin, and he cancels that meeting. And you got to think about how he's behaving here. He's been friends with Putin, and now he's taking all these offensive actions. So when he goes to this summit, he doesn't want to see Putin. November 16th, this is, you know what, one thing I didn't look up, just what does CISA stand for? It's a Department of Homeland Security thing that he put in place having to do with cybersecurity. I just didn't look that one up, and I should have. So November 25th is Ukraine and Russia, the situation that happened in Ukraine and Russia, and Trump then on November 29th cancels his meeting in the G20 summit in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and he states that he's doing so because of Russia's behavior with Ukraine over spheres of influence. December 19th, Trump announces the troops are withdrawing from Syria and Afghanistan. Jim Mattis resigns. And then Donald Trump also removes sanctions on Oleg Deripaska. And I can't remember how much, if we went into Oleg Deripaska last time or if it's just in this one. So we'll see going up here. So in 2014, we saw the crisis in Ukraine. The crisis was because Oleg Deripaska is linked with Paul Manafort. And we'll find that out. And we're going to go into that because Paul Manafort is linked with Viktor Yanukovych. In 2014, we saw the crisis in Ukraine. The crisis was because they had a president that was tied to Russia. Did you have a question?
I have the answer.
Yeah.
Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. CISA. Cyber Security and Infrastructure Security Agency.
Thank you.
CISA.
Okay, so, and who helped to get that Russian favoring president elected? Ukraine in 2014 has a president, Viktor Yanukovych, who's favorable to Russia. He had been convicted of fraud years previously, specifically rigging an election. But he's able to reinvent his image. He has close ties with Russia. He runs a campaign, though pretending to be favorable to the West, not to Russia. So he reinvents himself and essentially tricks the Ukrainian people. To make a long story short, he cuts his ties to the West and announces that he's going to build closer ties to Russia. So whatever your leader does is what you're stuck with, right? This, mixed with evidence of huge corruption, causes the Ukrainian revolution. Who was the man behind Viktor Yanukovych to help get him elected? This is where Paul Manafort comes in. He became Trump's campaign manager toward the end of 2016. But in 2014, and he goes way back. He goes way back in Russian, helping the Russians with things. Okay, so he became Trump's, let's see there. But in 2014, he's working for Viktor Yanukovych. It's not just Viktor Yanukovych that he's working for, who orchestrated all of this. All of this is who Paul Manafort really works for, Oleg Deripaska. So though Paul Manafort orchestrated everything to help get Viktor Yanukovych re-changing his image, rebranding him, I guess, but the real person that Paul Manafort was working for was Oleg Deripaska. So you've got the Russian-Ukraine situation in 2014. Yanukovych, the president of Ukraine, is working with Paul Manafort. Paul Manafort is hired to help Yanukovych rebrand himself. Paul Manafort is actually working for Oleg Deripaska. So Vladimir Putin works through his oligarchs, and in 2014, Manafort is $19 million in debt to Oleg Deripaska. And another couple of links here where you can read up more details on all this. And this was an interesting one too. Did Manafort use Trump to curry favor with the Putin ally? It's no wonder they were investigating all these things.
Yeah, Paul Manafort, he's a piece of work.
How do these people having a job and doing a good job and being a good person, and that's just amazing that people do so. It's always amazed me that people can do such purposeful calculating things.
It's kind of amazing that a lot of Trump's entourage and people that were involved with him were involved somehow or with Russian operatives.
There's a whole bunch of them here.
And then he's saying, well, no, that doesn't stick to me because there's no collusion.
He acted like he had nothing to do with Russia.
Right.
But he's got a whole lot in one of his sons. I don't remember if it's this study or the next one that I'm working on, but that they had all their money wrapped up in Russia investments.
Yeah.
Jared, his son Jared.
Yeah. Wow.
That's most of why Trump has such a relationship with him, because he has a lot of estate,
Yeah, Jared is actually
buildings, whatever.
It's one of his sons. I think it was Donald Trump Jr. That makes some statements that
he's out there.
they're all connected, and they have been for years.
Trump Jr.'s out there.
Years. After that, like the right what?
Yeah, ever since business. During his business, he's been in business with Trump during, even way before he was.
Oh yeah, this goes way back. After that conflict arises, because they fought, and think about what's going on in the movement right now, that they're rejecting all this political stuff, and we're looking too much at the events outside. This is a story
Yeah, I was kind of sad when she was saying that. My heart kind of really broke because the reason why we're looking at the stories outside is because it's how we're going to see what's going to happen for us, the things we need to see for 9/11, November 9th.
Yeah.
You know.
Not just that, but we need to predict an Islam event. We need to predict the Sunday law. We need to be able to see this stuff beforehand, and the way it works its way to that is through external events, because Sunday law and Islam event, those are external events.
Yep.
Yep.
As we saw, the priests see also the internal. So I don't know. It's all intricately woven, external and internal together. I don't know how you. I don't know.
At the turning point.
Yeah.
Turning point, yeah. The internal, external
Yeah.
in the world and the history of the church.
Yep.
So I'm going to try to figure out how to get out of here real quick. After that conflict arises because they fought over that debt. This is going back to the previous screen. It was the $19 million that he's indebted for. And that was an interesting story too, because it tells the story of this $19 million just missing, and nobody knows what happened to it. Paul Manafort, let's see, after they fought over that debt, you can tie Paul Manafort to Ukraine, but also to the 2016 election. In that election, Paul Manafort is updating Oleg Deripaska with private information about Trump's campaign. Oleg Deripaska is intimately connected to the 2016 election, a proxy for Vladimir Putin. Because of that connection to the 2016 election, sanctions have been placed on him by the U.S. government. On December 19th, Trump has those sanctions removed. Those sanctions related to the businesses that Deripaska controlled, which was mainly Rusal, the largest private energy company inside Russia. So these sanctions related specifically to Oleg Deripaska. It's Russia's largest energy company. So you can see that Oleg Deripaska is over Rusal, the largest energy company. And that's who Paul Manafort is working for. And there's an article there that you can click on to link to read as well when he lists these sanctions. So going back again, September 21st, I want to make sure I say this right. Let me back up one slide. Oh, my thing's not lit up here for me to back up one slide, so we won't for right now. We'll have the time chart here in a minute coming up.
You can back. You just click on the screen and it'll.
If I click on the screen, it's only going to go forward.
You can't
but
hit
it'll highlight the bottom on it.
Yeah, it wasn't highlighting it, so that's okay. It's okay. We'll see it on the next
on
screen.
my arrows keys work.
Oh yeah, try the arrow keys.
The arrow keys. Try going back. Your left one.
Nope, that's okay. It's okay. So by December 19, the relationship is broken down. There's been no payment or relief of sanctions, and they're arguing over spheres of influence. But on December 19th, these two issues are resolved. Trump announces that he's removing his troops from Syria. That's his spheres of influence, and half of his troops from Afghanistan. And he removes sanctions on Oleg Deripaska payment for the help that he got in 2016, causing the last general to resign. So there's our date right here. July, they're friends, right? September 21st, you've got the National Cyber Strategy. They're going to begin working offensively. October 21st, Putin notices and makes comment that Trump isn't acting very friendly. October 31st, they are taking the offensive action right now, which is right now, right prior to the November 6th midterm elections. All coming from a man who said that Russia didn't interfere with the elections. And in Helsinki, he admitted that when he was asked by a reporter, your own special counsel tells you that Russia interfered with the election, and Trump has told you that he hasn't. Which one are you going to believe? And he said Putin, right? So then on November 6th, you got the midterm elections, November 9 to 11. You've got the meeting in France that he cancels. because he's now acting offensively against the King of the South and he doesn't want to meet him face to face. November 16th, the new organization with the Department of Homeland Security is set up. Christine gave us the name. And November 25th, you've got the Ukraine-Russia incident. And then November 29th, Trump cancels the meeting with Putin in Buenos Aires. And we're going to find out that he actually did meet with him, but met with him secretly. So December 19th, Trump troop announces that he's withdrawing troops from Syria, half of the troops from Afghanistan. Because of this, Jim Mattis, the last standing general that is restraining him, resigns. Trump also removes sanctions off of all of Deripaska, which is payment to Putin. And now, December 20th, the relationship is strong. So Vladimir Putin comes out on December 20th. He holds his annual news conference. Everybody saw that, I think. Some of us saw that. I think I put the link in this notes. I can't remember. Once a year, he speaks to the Russian media, and he speaks to them for 4 hours, and he praises Trump and for all these actions. He says Trump has made the right decision in these troop withdrawals. He says he has no sympathy for Trump because he says Trump was elected, he says he has sympathy for Trump because he says Trump was elected by the U.S. people and his country is not giving him the respect he should have. So it's really this defense of Trump mixed with praise. So they're friends again. By December 20th, the relationship is strong again, just like going back into World War II, where the relationship suffered a period of breakdown over sanctions and spheres of influence. They got together, worked out their differences, and reset everything, and then they were strong. Their alliance was stronger. So we're in this period.
Pretended to be friends.
Pretended to be friends, yeah. So we're in this period where they're friends. So we should be seeing some unfriendly actions by Putin coming. By December 20th, the relationship is strong again. There are two key. Go ahead.
Sorry, and when that happens, it'll continue to strengthen our faith in these lines.
Yes.
Right. Which is the point.
Yes.
Right.
Did everybody hear that?
God shows us these things so that when they happen, we will believe on Him.
That's right.
Say that again then.
And He knows we need continuous faith strengthening things. I could tell you that ever since we had that conversation that time, almost a year ago now, right? That very next day, I was doubting some of the things that we had talked about. That very next day, and I get this voice in my head saying, "What did I just show you last night? What did you just see?" It's a horn. And so he was reminding me of the things he just reviewed in my mind through this conversation with her that was purposeful to increase my faith, that we can walk forward trusting that what we know is true. So he's giving each one of us various experiences to increase our faith because he knows that we're in our humanity, we're going to forget the next day.
And it didn't used to be so much that he needed, but with our short attention spans, it takes thousands of lines and millions of little waymarks. Just like, okay, now this, and then this minute this is going to happen, and this minute this is going to happen. And we're like,
yeah.
And if you refuse to learn them, then you don't want to know what's happening.
Yeah.
That makes me think of the disciples because Christ did the same thing with him and letting, telling them that he's going to die, and they didn't want to believe that, so they wrote the prayer when he came.
So when you reject the events that are external, you reject what Christ is telling you about what's going to happen to you.
Amen. Very dangerous to reject the external. The external is guiding us right now. It seems like, through him telling us, it's guiding us. By December 20th, the relationship is strong again. There are two key pieces of information that did not come out until around January 2019. In the January 2019, she did not say January 2019. I'm looking at the time period that they were in doing this, which was March, and she said a couple of months ago, okay? So if I have any dates wrong, it was me trying to piece together based on what she said the best I could, and then look up things that I could as well. So some of them I looked up. So two things that we learned. We discussed the Internet Research Agency's activity in 2014 and that election. October 31st, John Bolton says that they are right then taking offensive action to protect the midterm elections. So it was purposeful. Everything they did was purposeful because Putin got him elected, and he knew that Putin could cause him problems in the next election. So he blocks him. What we became aware of in January and February was that on the day of the midterm elections, the United States launched a cyber attack against the Internet Research Agency. Donald Trump personally approved the cyber attack and shut down the Internet Research Agency on November 6th. That's the very day of the midterm elections. It's believed for some period of time around November 6th, long enough for them to count the votes. So November 6th, there's a U.S. cyber attack that was not been provoked. It's not defensive, it's offensive, which is exactly what they said they were going to do. So he shuts down the Internet Research Agency for right at the time of the November 6th midterm elections. So it's no surprise that a couple of days later, Trump didn't want to meet with Putin, considering what he had just done.
He wanted to pick up his paycheck.
This is amazing. If it wasn't, it amazes me to all these little pieces of events that happen that I myself am incapable of seeing them connected. But I praise God that as they've been connected for us, that I can see it, because obviously we can see that some don't want to look at this stuff and reject it. So we have the same dynamics. That is what was built into World War II. We have two parts of this alliance, spheres of influence and sanctions. Those two parts cause a strain, and Stalin was concerned with how strong Hitler was looking or becoming. So that relationship begins to break down and fully breaks down in August of 1940. We take it to Heraclea. What we're meant to see is a crisis initiated by the King of the North against the King of the South. Donald Trump initiates this conflict. He's the aggressor. But you should see a secret meeting. They sort out their differences, because remember back, that's what Hitler and Stalin did. They got together and settled their differences, redrew the lines. We should see they sort out their differences, and they're stronger than they were before. And whatever they renegotiated is favorable to the King of the South. So what also came out at the end of January is that they did meet at the G20 in Argentina, but it was kept secret. And I remember when this one came out too. There was one translator, and at the end of the meeting, Trump took the notes from her and forbid her from speaking to his own team. And I know the news media took a lot of hits over this one because they were reporting this, that he was hiding the transcript. And if I recall, he denied it all, right?
Did he have a Sharpie in his hand?
What?
Did he have a Sharpie in his hand?
He's been fighting against the fact that people caught him. He took the weather channels.
I saw that.
He took a magic marker and he said, no, let's hit Alabama. Let's go all the way up to here. It's just like a black line that was added on top of the regular blip. I was like, are you crazy?
You know what they're calling
thought
that?
that was going to pass? And so he's trying to defend it against all odds. Like, people are like, we have eyeballs.
They're calling it Sharpie Gate.
Sharpie Gate?
Yeah, Sharpie Gate.
But what's really amazing is this man is insane.
He is
insane to go up and now take the job of the weather.
Was that
The weather.
Was that in
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Sorry, I saw that and I was blown away.
I'm sorry, I was reading something. Who did that?
Donald Trump with Hurricane Doreen, that he went out and held his map up and redrew the lines of the path of Hurricane.
Oh yeah, at the desk. Okay.
Despite what the National Weather Service, and then they came out and even told him that he was wrong, that it was never going to go into Alabama, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he still defended his. It's like, I'm the president. I'm the president. If I want to say where the hurricane's going, I can say it. And I just thought,
He's even getting.
you are insane.
He's even getting the people that work for him, the different agencies, to come out and publicly say, that's correct. Yeah, it could happen. I'm like, and he's forcing them to say that, he's not, he's asking for backup.
So here we have They did meet in Argentina in secret, and he tells people that, that there was one translator, and at the end of that meeting, Trump took the notes from her and forbid her to speaking to his own, even to his own team. So there was a secret meeting at the end of November. Whatever was discussed at that meeting, this is the conditions that led into that meeting, and December 19th is a result of that meeting, which was a clear win for the King of the South. So we remember December 19th, where the sanctions are removed off of Oleg Deripaska, removes troops from Syria and Afghanistan, and also the general, the last general standing that would have any kind of restraint power on Trump, resigns. We want to look at another thing that happened December 19th that is relevant for us, but not relating to the King of the South. We just want to mark one other thing. If we were to go back to 2016, to the election, what day did Trump win the election? And how many elections are there in 2016? Two. Because you can win this vote on November 9th and still not become president.
Oh, that's right.
Popular vote.
There is one more vote you have to win. This is the people's vote. The November 9 one is the people's vote. What else does he have to win to become president?
The Electoral College.
Yep. And it's not finalized. Clinton could still have become president. We have the people's vote, then the Electoral College, which was December 19th.
Did he win the people's vote on November 9th?
No.
I thought she
I thought it
did.
was Clinton.
Hillary had like 3 million more votes than he did, which I find really interesting because they declared a win on November 9th, didn't they, when the election actually happened?
Yeah, they did.
So how did they declare a win if he failed the popular vote, but the electoral college?
Well, because
They declared a win before they got all the results in for some reason.
yeah, but they declare the win based on what the Electoral College shows, because that's what they put up on all the screens, is they show the states that you've won.
But this is saying that the electoral college was in December 19th.
Right, correct. But I was reading on this, they actually choose, the president himself, if I remember right from my reading, they get to choose their electors, the Electoral College. Okay, so whoever is running, they get to choose. Anyway, so on November 9, when you see the elections, you'll always see them showing the popular vote, and they'll also be showing how many electoral votes they've won. But it's not official until the Electoral College does their official vote.
Not official. That they deliberate it for like 3 weeks, I guess. Hey, like.
Right.
Yeah.
So he won according to the electoral votes, but it wasn't official until December 19th. Yeah, 19th.
Okay.
So the popular vote, yes, he did win, but on November 9, it already showed that he had enough electoral votes to win.
No, he didn't win the popular vote. He won the electoral, is what you meant to say, I think, right?
He won the electoral, he didn't win the popular, and I think Tess made a mistake on that in Alberta. But in the United States, because we know that the popular vote doesn't matter for squat anymore, the only thing anyone thinks about is the electoral vote. So that every news channel, that's all they focus on election night, regardless of the popular vote. No one cares about that.
Yeah, the popular vote has never been since the Electoral College came in.
Right.
That was actually the original way that they used to win until the Electoral College came in. And I don't know why they count both now. I think it just keeps the people happy. Because usually the one who wins the popular also wins the electoral.
I think there was a purpose for there being the electoral.
It is. It has to do
with the southern states.
Yeah.
It has to do with the states that don't have as strong a population as many people.
Exactly.
And so, but they are to vote according to their party, if I remember right. And that's why it was really critical that just recently, wasn't it the Supreme Court that signed in that you're allowed to change your electorate, that the elector is allowed to change who votes for? Is that right?
Yeah, he doesn't have to vote according to what his state wants anymore.
Right.
It's not.
They were saying I think it was a New York Times article or something like that, where they were saying that the reason for the Electoral College was so that basically what we've always kind of thought was that the majority can't constantly rule over the minority, because you had all these the rural areas that their votes basically meant nothing compared to the major states with their major cities. But with the Electoral College, what ended up happening is you now have the minority ruling over the majority, which is even worse.
Yeah.
And that's how you get someone like Trump into power, because he didn't even win the election, and now the minority is ruling over the majority.
So this here is Ipsos, but in the form of more than just a date, okay? Because Ipsos transpires on the people's vote November 9 and the electoral vote on December 19, okay? So here we have Ipsos on November 9 and December 19th of 2016. And we come to where we see Heraclea. We know Heraclea to be December 19th and Asculum to be November 9. We're going to go through this a little bit more. Okay.
How does that work? Those two are both
We're
2019.
going to go through it right now. I jumped ahead. So let's see, the Electoral College vote, whatever we want to make of it, Ipsos, it is 2 dates. It's November 9 and December 19th. Heraclea, December 19th. Asculum, November 9 because it's Raphia. We know it's November 9 of 2019. This is December 19, 2018. And this was Heraclea, and we already know that November 9 is Raphia, and Raphia is Asculum. So if you notice, you've got November 9, December 19, December 19th, November 9. What do we know that to be?
Chiasm.
Yeah.
My book.
So also on December 19th in the history of World War II, December 19th of 1941, this is significant too. Hitler disagrees with his generals one last time and then takes over control of the army. So on December 19th of 1941, Hitler, who were already lining up Trump's parallel, December 19th of 1941, he gets rid of his generals and he takes control of the army. The restraint on Hitler's generals was removed December 19th, the same way it was for Trump, December 19th, 2018. We need to remember what we're discussing is our strongest evidence as to what Raphia looks like. It's something we could begin tracing from at least 3 months before, if not 6 months, or May 11th. So she's addressing all these dates here that we can be tracing events like we traced events here for Heraclea. And look at the sequence again. He signs an executive order. They're friends. Now he's going to initiate the national cyber strategy where they're going to take offensive action. Putin sees that Trump is not friendly towards him when they were such friends in Helsinki. They're now taking offensive action right now, which was just prior to the midterm elections. They stopped, what is it? What was the word we used with the Internet Research Agency? Shut it down. The Internet Research Agency.
Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
Wow, you're good at that. But they shut down the Internet Research Agency because they knew that that was what was causing the problems in the election. So they shut it down just in time for the November 6th midterm elections. Right following that, Trump cancels the meeting with Putin. November 16th, we'll let Christine remind us of that one. And November 25th, you got the Ukraine and Russia incident. And then November 29th, Trump cancels the meeting of the G20 summit, but he actually meets him in secret after all. Has one translator and takes the notes away from the translator and orders the translator not to repeat anything she heard. December 19th, I'd like to know who that he or she. How could you live with yourself knowing some of these things that are said? December 19th, Trump announces that this is his payment. So whatever happened in this meeting, this secret meeting here in Argentina, is what resulted in what Trump did on December 19th when he announces that he's removing troops from Syria and Afghanistan, which then causes Jim Mattis to resign, the last general that would restrain him, and then he removes sanctions. So he's given him his payment and given him his spheres of influence, right? So she's saying we can trace, this is the strongest evidence to be able to trace Raphia, what Raphia looks like. That was it.